Kenzie, did you know it's finally spring? Okay, no. I know you already knew that, and I know that it certainly doesn't feel like it's finally spring with the amount of snow that we've been getting over the past couple of weeks, but it's true, it's finally here. And you know what that means? Do you know what spring brings? Flowers! Oh, beautiful, wonderful, gorgeous flowers that are absolutely ridden with folklore. Flowers are traditionally the special charge of fairies. They act as the link and the bridge between the human world and the land of the Fae, and the use of flowers in potions, rituals, or even in gardening can incite interaction in a multitude of ways. And now, today, we certainly do not have time to get into all of these ways, but there is one that I kind of want to talk about just a little bit. Now marked I where the bolt of Cupid fell, it fell upon a little western flower, before milk white, now purple with love's wound, and maidens call it love in idleness. This flower, as stated by Oberon as being before milk white, now purple with love's wound, is the absolutely lovely viola tricolor. At this point in A Midsummer Night's Dream, Oberon is calling upon Puck to fetch some of the love and idleness for use in a love potion, which is then used on Titania and the other characters in the play and results in this farcical romp involving a man with a donkey head. The wild pansy's penchant for lovers' relations stretches all the way back to Greek and Roman mythology. While the Greek strand of the myth is a little bit more unclear, it does tie into the myth of Zeus and the woman that he turns into a cow, Io, of which he gives her this flower as a bit of a consolation prize for what he's done to her and the fact that she's left grazing on the fields, and that is a very loose reading of the myth, but bear with me. In Roman mythology, however, the wild pansy was the result of a Cupid misfire. One of Cupid's arrows soared past its target and landed in this flower and was then imbued with the essence and spirituality and traits of Cupid himself. The juice of the flower that was struck by the god of love and erotic love and desire has now been attributed with the traits of that god and is now associated with things like love and desire and used in love potions such as Oberon does. It is even said in a lot of folklore that putting the petals of the love and idleness on the eyelids of your lover will make them fall in love with you. But there is also in there, and we cannot forget this, the word idle and idleness and a little bit of a vile nature. I mean, using a love potion on someone doesn't necessarily amount to love as much as you might think it does. So while the flower does have good connotations in folklore and it has a lovely backstory, it has a little bit of a Gothic edge to it. But pansies have also been referred to as fairy-faced flowers. If you take a look at the pansy head on, you may be able to spot a little face peeking in between those petals. It is because of this and its use in folklore and history and the strong bonds that fairies have to it that whimsical and Gothic gardeners alike have used the pansy in something called a fairy garden. It is one of the many flowers that offers an open invitation for the wee folk to come and visit. Other flowers include columbine, which is a symbol of foolishness, cowslips, which offer a bell-like shape in their petals that fairies like to nestle into, daylilies, of which it is said to keep your house free of ghosts and other unwanted intruders, and ferns, which offer shelter to fairies. But be wary around ferns, for if you speak too close to them of any of your secrets, they will promptly be carried away on the four winds. But spring isn't only about fairy flowers. Rather famously, as cliche as it is, spring is about rebirth, new beginnings and fresh starts, and I think above all else, that is what we're doing here, Kenzie. We are making something new after a cold and bitter drought of creativity, and I think that's great. So if you don't mind, Kenzie, for just a second, I would like to address our dearest listeners. Hey guys. If you're here from our podcast, you already know who I am and who Kenzie is, but if you're here and have found us, whether through finding the show on iTunes recently or our social media or some weird blip in your YouTube algorithm, hi! I'm Adara, one half of the duo that runs a podcast called Dead Men Don't Podcast. It's a show dedicated, not always, but usually, to unearthing all of the ghost stories of Toronto's past. We trace the history of them through real brick and mortar, hands-on work, one-on-one interviews with curators and historians and the people who run these places or have had experiences in these places, and a whole lot of spiritual hearts. One of us believes in ghosts, the other one believes in history, and it's really up to you to decide whether or not those two are one and the same. The point is, because so much of what we do for the show is done by getting our hands dirty and actually going to these locations and talking to real human beings and experiencing the stories firsthand, that's not something we can do right now. We took a break at the start of the year so Kenzie could finish her undergrad, and now, due to COVID, like so many other things are, we have been forced to keep it on hold. But that doesn't mean we're done for. We have ultimately decided to start this channel as a way to keep the podcast going and keep it alive in a different format. This is something that we can do one-on-one in our own homes because we can't see each other right now. I'm not even in Toronto anymore. And it's a nice way to kind of keep in touch and keep creating for the show. So because of that, each of us will be uploading weekly episodes covering something that we would cover on the show, whether it be ghosts or aliens or folklore, as I did today. These will be things that maybe we haven't been able to get a chance to talk about on the show, or maybe they're too short to talk about on the show, or maybe we'll bring them into the show at another time, who knows, but things that we haven't done quite yet. Short episodes to keep us busy, you guys happy, and to keep the show active, and to keep the ghosts that truly run this podcast happy as well. So that is all for this little short introduction video. Maybe next week, when I make my next one, I'll keep on the track of fairies and tell you guys about the Eske, which is a topic for the podcast I've been wanting to do for ages. But until then, wee folk, stay inside. And Kenzie, I'll see you soon. Daylilies, of which it is said to keep your ghost free of houses. Yep, your ghost is free of houses.